So I have a really long thread with the subject of shared living. I remember just the other day that I think I helped to develop a shared living arrangement in 1978, uh, um, at the height of the deinstitutionalization movement in New York. And since then, I've helped to develop probably about 40 different kinds of shared living arrangements. And back in '07, organized a conference in New York where about 300 people came to it on the subject of shared living. And I've written pretty bureaucratic work about it, about sort of the legalistic side of it. So I've had a long interest in the subject. And then about a year, I think a year ago, I was listening to a series of webinars, and I think you, John, turned me onto by the Rockwool Foundation. And the subject of the webinars was transformation. It wasn't peculiar to or particular to our work in the disability world. It was a broad subject of transformation. And one of the speakers was a guy, I think his last name was Alan Fox, was his name?
Alex.
Alex Fox, thank you, John, from an organization called Shared Lives Plus, based in Liverpool in England. And he gave a talk about what it was, shared living. And it just struck me, the content of his talk was fine, but it wasn't anything that blew me away. What hit me was, well, there are people in other countries who are interested in this subject. Duh, of course there are. So it struck me that I would like to do something with people from other countries. So I got that idea. And I went to, many of you know, the New York Alliance for Inclusion and Innovation. Freda was its past president. John and Beth have worked with them forever. Carol knows them. So anyway, I've been associated with that organization since its inception, also around 1978. So I went to the CEO and said, what do you guys think about sponsoring an international event, conference on shared living? And they took a gulp for quite a few months, because while they were really good at hosting learning events, they were always in New York to a New York audience. And then finally, they were gentle nudging. They said, go for it, or at least try to go for it. And then I reached out to a whole lot of people, many of whom are on this call now, to be an advisory group. So, will you help me? I don't know how to do this. I mean, I've organized learning events, but cross boundaries, I don't know how to do that, but I know that you guys know that. Will you help? Now, I had no fear that people would accept the invitation, because I know all of them, and they're all of generous spirit. I knew they would say yes. What I feared was, when I started to organize, all right, we got to start meeting and talking about it, that calendars would not permit it. All right, yeah, well, I'd love to help, but I can't. Now, we've only gotten together once, but almost everybody showed up, which was really thrilling. So I was very grateful to that. And then Jack introduced me to the Citizen Network. Now, Carol Blessing had tried once before, but I ignored her. But Jack introduced me to the Citizen Network and Marcus Vahala, based in Finland. And I don't know if you're familiar with that, or that group, that network of networks, but they are just blowing me away. So to have made that connection with Marcus has been just really exciting for me. So, and all of that, as Beth, I think it was you pointed out not too long ago, well, if it wasn't for COVID, we wouldn't be doing this, because who the heck knew about Zoom 4 years ago? But now we have this tool to talk across the oceans, and we don't have to spend tens of thousands of dollars just to get there. Right? We can actually do it. So that's just like this weird benefit from COVID. So we're really in our early stages of planning. We're just figuring it out, how we're going to do this. But I'll close my little diatribe here with something that one of our advisors on this advisory group, woman, Carol got me to, Carol Blessing, Monique Nelson. She's based in British Columbia. She's with an organization called Possibilities, POSA Abilities. And at the close of our first meeting of this advisory group, she said, we're going to make a statement to the world. And Yeah, that's what we want to do. Make a statement to the world about people with and without people who have differing support needs living with one another.